Hi, welcome back to the Spirit's Path. This is Dee, and today's tarot card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot deck is the Eight of Stones and Skill. And what I thought about this card today and meditated on was all the hard work that he's put in into taking that piece of stone, all right, and chewing it up with, I don't know, another piece of stone, I guess, right? He's using it as a chisel. But you know, he is so hard at work. He's got his craft sitting in front of him, and he's about ready to make something else. And yet there's three sitting on a ledge, okay? And they're, you know, kind of his lighting, his smoke pots to, you know, give him light as he's crafting, you know, away at the eighth, you know, whatever it is he's going to make. And then he's got his handprint sitting up on the wall. So, you know, he's put his handprint on his skill set. He understands that this is his craft, okay? And he's learning new things as he's going along, learning new ways. You know, maybe he started with those smoke pots, you know, or those lamps, you know, before. And then he, you know, he turned into, you know, hey, let me make an arrow. Let me make a, you know, a figurine. There's a little figurine down there, right? Right down here in this corner. You know, and he's also got, you know, possibly an instrument, you know, that's down there as well as a dagger. And to me, it looks like he's got all four of the elements. Okay, he's got the flame for the, you know, the little cup thing to hold his oils so he can have the fire. He's got the water in there as well, with the figurine, you know, being a spiritual figure. He's got the earth in there with, you know, the dagger possibly. Okay, or the musical instrument, and he's got the earth, and he's using a lot of the earth. Okay, and you know, again, we've talked so much about the stones and materialism and stability. He feels great in what he's doing. Okay, he knows he's got a stable environment. He's got a stable passion, you know, to create these things out of stone. Right? He's got that skill set. And he's learned along the way from yesterday's card of the Page of Arrows. Okay, the Wren. He's had that, you know, as he's sitting there working on his skill set, he gets curious. And he says, what else can I make? See, I've got the arrow. You know, maybe I can make it, you know, maybe this time he's going to make a dagger or something like that. Or maybe another instrument to help, you know, chop up, you know, the stones and stuff like that. And he's got so much dedication and so much intense concentration on that he's just going to work. He's just at his craft. He is in his Zen zone, okay? And, you know, I know a lot like us, when we go to work and we get into that zone, it's like we are so focused on our skill set to do what we need to do, okay, that we have fun. You don't even realize it, but you have fun, okay? You know, and when you can go to work and just focus on what you need to do and focus on what you need to accomplish, whether that's as an individual or a team, you know, that does give you a sense of joy, a sense of pride, saying, you know what, I got this done. I got this task at hand taken care of. All right? And along with that, you know, you may learn something new. If you're working on a spreadsheet and somebody shows you how to do something different, right? That's a skill set that you'll learn. You may have asked some questions. You may have taken that Page of Arrows opportunity and said, you know, what more can I learn about this? And, you know, somebody else just says, hey, try this, you know, put this formula in, try this trick, and boom. You know, and it populates all your graphs. And you're like, wow, that's so easy. And you start using that. You learned a new skill, okay, to, you know, enhance your skill set. And then when you implement it and you get better at it and better at it, it just becomes, you know, second nature. And it's great because now you've honed that craft a little bit more and you become the expert at it, okay? And, you know, when you develop that skill set, it presents new opportunities, but it also presents some challenges, okay? Some challenges for you to learn something different. Okay, going through those growing pains of the mistakes in learning stuff. Now, if you're in a manufacturing environment, you really can't afford the mistake, right? of changing something up. But you can look at the process and say, you know what, can we make this process run better? Okay, you can't change the ingredients going into an automobile or, into a sewing machine or whatever, right? Because all those pieces are coming in. But maybe there's a change in the process that you can look at and say, hey, we can make this more efficient. And when you do that, that's the new challenge. Okay, saying, hey, have we thought about possibly doing this, to make it more efficient, to where we can cut time, to where we can have more production going out. Okay, and when you do that, that's a lean opportunity. All right, and that leads to, again, it could lead to better opportunities. It may not. All right, and you just look at that challenge. You say, hey, I had an idea, it didn't work, but you know what? You planted a seed. That's good. Okay, and that just helps with that skill set that you have, because you're thinking about the macro and not the micro of your job position. And and that just leads to more growth. People see that. Okay, you're thinking bigger picture instead of smaller picture. But in any opportunity that you have, okay, to learn, to grow, to gain new skills, to have fun, within learning those new skills, the key is patience. Patience and perseverance, which this guy has. He's got a lot of patience just to sit there and chip at that rock, right? Until he gets, what he's looking for. His wrist may hurt, his feet may hurt, from sitting there for so long, chipping away at that stone, but he's got that self-discipline, okay? And most people that are hardworking, most people that, go to work knowing they do a good job, are disciplined in their craft. They're disciplined in their attitude of, hey, let's just get this done. Let's focus on the, task at hand and take care of it. And, when you have that focus, when you're able to, go in there and look at the job, okay, and just take care of business, you kind of master that skill set. This guy's mastering his skill set, and he's learning at the same time. He's asking himself the questions that page of arrows would ask. And, it's, again, when you get into that Zen zone, like he is right now, and you could feel the flow of energy coming through, that's the universe talking to you. That's your spirit guides talking to you and letting you know that you're divinely blessed, right? And, that just fills you up with more positive energy. Positive energy that, hey, I'm going to get this done. Somebody's going to be able to use this. I can take my wares and take them to the fair or take them to the the community store or whatever, and I can sell it, right? I can make some money off of this. The skill sets that you learn in your business place are ones that you can carry with you into other opportunities, other jobs, other careers. I remember years ago when a senior boss asked me, he goes, you need to take care of this, and this, because, if there's a layoff or we let people go, what are you going to do? And I looked at him and I said, I'm not really too worried about that. I've got a master's degree. I've got the skill set in communications, a skill set in lean tech, methodologies, and plus the skill set that, I'm learning, in managing an account. And he never really thought about it. He goes, yeah, but you can't do that in every industry. I said, you're right. I can't take automotive with me, to Hawaii. But you know what? I can take my skill set. Managing an account in automotive is no different than managing an account in the wine and brewery section. Okay? Operating a spreadsheet is no different in a spreadsheet someplace else. And when I explained that to him, the boss kind of looked at it and said, oh, I see where you're coming from. You're using your experience as your skill set. I said, absolutely. Why wouldn't you? I said, that's how you got to your position. You used your skill set, your experience to, get you into this elevated position. And he was like, I really never thought about it like that. I've always been in sales and this, that, and the other thing. I said, sales is a skill set. And it was a great conversation, having it with my boss, the senior executive at the time. And, it shed some light on me into what he was looking at, gave me some learning, And it gave him some learning on where I'm coming from. So that's just an example of how you can use your skill set, okay, and take it to another industry, all right? Take it to another level. You know, you don't have to always stay in the level that you're at because you're always growing. You're always learning, okay? And it's that perseverance and dedication of moving forward and, you know, and focusing on the task at hand. So that's today's card of the day, the 8 of Stones skill out of the Wildwood Tarot deck. Hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, share with others, and give me a thumbs up. And this is D for the Spirit's Path. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. God bless. Stay safe, everybody.